Hi, this is Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're here rounding out week 3 of our 5-minute histories videos. And I knew yesterday that I wasn't going to make it through all of the LGBTQ history that I wanted to, so we're going to do part 2 today. But before we get there, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who has contributed to Baltimore Heritage over the last several weeks. Both contributed financially, but also contributed by sharing your thanks and your thoughts. And I'd like to say thank you by reading 2 quick emails from folks that we've got over the last couple weeks. The first is after we filmed our Druid Hill Park series, I got an email that said, "We had such a good time in Druid Hill Park today, preceded by your words about Wallace and the Rogers and the Buchanans." And I cannot tell you how grateful we are for notes like that. My colleague Molly and I are basically filming these and putting them together in the vacuums of our living rooms, not really knowing if anybody's watching them or if they really matter that much. And although we're definitely not curing the coronavirus epidemic with the videos, it is very nice to know that we're at least bringing a little bit of joy into people's homes in this bleak time. The second email I'd like to read is after we shot our Patterson Park video. I got an email that said, "I subscribe to your 5-minute histories and really enjoy watching them. I just watched Patterson Park and the War of 1812. I thought you may be interested that I have my ancestors' original muster orders from August 1814. And indeed, this person sent by email an image of the document in 1814 calling up her ancestor to go help defend Baltimore against the British. So very, very neat. So for all of you out there, thanks again, and please share with us. Share what you think of these videos, good or bad, and then share with us your own histories and tell us if there are places that you want to explore. All right, I have churned through my most of my 5 minutes already, and so we better get going back to Mount Vernon Place. The first person I want to talk about is Gertrude Stein. And last time we talked about how Mary Elizabeth Garrett contributed greatly to the founding of the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. One of the people to benefit from that was Gertrude Stein. Stein grew up as a teenager on East Biddle Street, 215 East Biddle, I believe. And while she was at Hopkins Medical School, she got to know a woman named Dr. Claribel Cone and her sister Etta. And some of you may be saying, aha, we know those names. That's the Impressionist collection at the Baltimore Museum of Art. We'll get there. Gertrude Stein got to know the Cone sisters in their literary salons, and in her 3rd or 4th year of medical school, Stein kind of wigged out, and then she dropped out and she moved to the left bank of Paris. But she kept up a connection with the Cone sisters. In fact, she started her own salon modeled after what the Cone sisters were doing in Baltimore at Marlborough Apartments on Utah Place. Stein became sort of the center of the art world, or at least one center of the art world in Paris. And here is a correspondence that didn't happen, but I imagine could have happened. It could have been from Gertrude back to the Cone sisters. Dearest Claribel and Etta, I'm here in the left bank of Paris, and things are fabulous. I've gotten to know several artists, Picasso and Matisse. They're so bold, you would love them. Please consider taking the next steamer over, and I'll introduce you to some of the up-and-coming avant artists. And also, by the way, I'm kind of run through my trust fund buying artwork, and I'm kind of starving, but I've saved aside a couple pieces that I think you'd really like, and I'll give them to you for a good price. Please bring your checkbook. And in fact, the Cone sisters did visit Gertrude Stein, did collect artwork, got to know artists and collected artwork in Paris. That became the collection of the central collection of the BMA's Impressionist exhibit, and one of the greatest collections in the country and indeed the world. Stein, of course, was gay, was open about it at a time when many people weren't, and through her own writings was offered some bold and insightful statements, including probably her best known work, the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas, her partner, which was really an autobiography about her own self. All right, we got to keep going. We're going to head back over to Mount Vernon Place, to 1 West Mount Vernon Place, and a guy named Harry Gladding. If you know the name Gladding, you may, if you're of a certain age and you're from Baltimore, You may know Gladding Chevrolet in Glen Burnie and Valley Chevrolet in the Green Spring Valley near the Valley Inn. That's Harry Gladding. He also, for a while, was a part owner of Marconi's restaurant, the fancy restaurant down on Saratoga Street. But Gladding and his partner Tim Windsor bought 1 West Mount Vernon Place in 1962. It was known as the Thomas Jenks Mansion. Thomas was John Hanson Thomas. He was a doctor and banker, also a descendant of John Hanson, our first president. And if you're scratching your heads, that's true, but he was president under the Continental Congress, so we kind of discount that. He was a Marylander. The Jenks family, you may know from, if you know where Micah is today, along Mount Royal, the Jenks family donated the land for that, as well as provided the funding for the Catholic Church that's right next door. So in 1962, at a time when the police were harassing and even arresting gay people for just standing and talking on Mount Vernon Place, the two bought the house on 1 Mount Vernon Place, Gladding and Windsor, and moved in. Their front yard was Mount Vernon Place, so I think by moving there, it was more than a small act of defiance. Gladding and Windsor restored the house beautifully and took great care of it. They were known kind of as the A-list party place. If you got an invitation to one of their parties, you dropped everything and you went. And eventually, when the two of them could no longer care for it, they ensured that it had somewhat of a good transition, although it had a rocky start. The building is also known as the Hackerman House. At one point, when it was empty, Willard Hackerman, the great Baltimore philanthropist, came in and bought it and restored it and gave it to the city. Sort of famously, he supposedly walked into William Donald Schaefer, Mayor Schaefer's office, and plunked the front door key down on the mayor's desk and said, "Here, it's yours." I'll wrap up by saying eventually the city sold it to the Walters Art Museum. The owner today, Tim, Gladding's partner Tim, was part of the committee, I believe, that assured that transition happened. And if you haven't been to the Walters, they've restored it, and it is just splendid. It's glorious. If you haven't been for a while, when we're allowed to go, please take a minute to go, and you can thank the Walters. But as you're in there, also think of Harry Gladding and his partner Tim Windsor, and say a quiet thank you to them for being the caretakers of one of our most fantastic historic places. All right, have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll see you on Monday.